Eric Burgess here with Music Marketing TV, and today we're going to be using the PSP InfiniStrip in order to fit a synth line into a track. Let's go ahead and take a look at a quick example. So it's pretty nice. This is like a small little kind of a thing. Just so you know, I do mix it in, so you'll hear it completely mixed in when the drums come in. Let's go ahead and go over here to the middle, and I just want to show you what it sounds like. Here it is with it off. And then on. So it is a pretty important move in this case. So to start us off, we have the patch. It is a Mojito patch, or I'm actually not sure how you say that. Hopefully that's correct. And the cutoff has been brought down and the ADSR has been adjusted. I started on the preset buzzing, and those were the two big things I did. And I also adjusted the envelope, another pretty important move. Everything else I pretty much left alone. And that is just the bass patch, and it by itself sounds like this. The next move was to add in a reverb, so I went ahead and grabbed just the mix verb, brought the size up, dampening way up, and then the mix is hardly anything, 3%, but it actually makes a really big difference. So if I play it, and let me go ahead and solo it. And then I'm gonna take it off. See, it just sounds like it's in a vacuum right now because that's pretty much what it is. So we just put some room on it. Helps it sit a lot more naturally in the mix. Next up, we hit the PSP InfiniStrip. So this is the InfiniStrip, and this is going to make a pretty big difference. This is what it sounds like now. So let's break down in pieces what I'm doing to get the tone that I'm after, because I actually really like the tone that I have. So let's go ahead and mute these guys. These come in a pair, so we can't change that yet. Take this one off, and we're going to leave this one, and this one's not going to matter at the moment. So, okay, so the way this works is, first up, I come into the InfiniStrip, and I gain it up like crazy. I auditioned a couple different preamps, and I went with the 80s pre, gained it up a ton. That way it would just saturate like crazy. And that's pretty much it. It's all I really did with this module. There's other stuff on here, but that is the big move. Gained it up like crazy. But if you're going to gain it up like crazy to get distortion, you're going to need to bring it back down. So I have this on auto gain with a reference at -4.8. But this is just the gain module. And all it's doing is if this is +30, this is going to bring it down. And so it just tones it back down. So this is only a tonal move. We don't get any gain increase. We just change the tone of the sound. And it sounds like this with these moves added, as opposed to it being off. So it comes forward quite nicely, and it's just a nice thing to do. It's always fun to sort of just hit preamp super hard. All right, now let's go to the next stage. This is some filtering. This is mostly for the kick and to let some of the string verb through, some of the high end on the string stuff and the hi-hat. So I shaved off some of the high end and just brought that down, and shaved off some of the low end, brought it to just under 200 hertz, leaving room for the kick. And also this messes with the snare a touch. And that's all that's going on here. Didn't get it for any other reason, just shaving off the high and the low end. Up next, or let's hear that. So that was before. Now after. So it leaves a ton of room for the kick. I could be way less aggressive with this bottom cut probably and still be okay. So that's something I might come back and change as I begin to add more and more elements to the track. Up next, we hit an EQ. And in this case, what I wanted to do was just shape the sound a little bit more. So there's 3 boosts, and I was just experimenting with different filters. And these are the specific filters, or the resonance at least, that I went with. So same filters, but different resonance types. A high shelf, and then 2 peaking filters. As opposed to this off. So this helps it pop through quite a bit more. Up next, we hit another EQ, and this one was set entirely by ear, so I think it'll be easiest. I didn't touch these two really at all. It's these two that are important. So up first, we get a high cut. Well, not really a high cut because it's just above 1.4K. But just getting some stuff out of the way for other things in the mix. And then we have a high mid, which I adjusted just a tad, but it is a boost in this case. And that's that. A master control, and on the master control we hit a width, and that just dials it up to 200, so making it just super wide. And that's the main reason I actually have this here. And then finally we have a compressor, and you might be wondering how I have the extra module view. There's 3 view types, and right now it's on full size view mode, so you could actually get rid of those and go to resizable just to compress things down. But I like to see what other things I can still fit in there if I want to fit them in. But this is just a compressor, and all it's doing is a sidechain. So it has a sidechain input enabled. And on the kick, I simply sent it out, the kick to the sidechain, into this plugin. So this is receiving the kick, so that when the kick plays, let's go ahead and unsolo everything. You can see the kick pumping it, so the kick gets to come through quite a bit more easily as well. And the settings for something like this are pretty straightforward. The important part is to get your attack and release and threshold values in check. So once you have these 3, in this case, the attack and release are pretty fast, so it's following the shape of the kick. And you can see that with the needle. And the threshold is pretty low. Also, keep in mind that there's a high pass filter on your input. Just be aware of this. So if it's not responding the way you think, you might want to check this down here. And then our ratio is 10:1, which is a pretty high ratio, but it's getting done what exactly I want done. I could dial it back for a more transparent effect. And mix 100%, makeup gain is at 3.5, and that is it. So that's pretty much the entire channel strip, and by their powers combined, we get a pretty nice effect out. So if we take this off and then back on. So I really like what it does to the synth sound. And then finally, I have a mix tool here. And if we turn this on, this is just a volume knob. And you might be going, what are you doing with this thing? Well, this is what's automating the PSP InfiniStrip on. So if I actually come into the routing here, this is the configuration that stuff is actually in. So there's a mix verb coming in, and then after the verb, we split to a direct sound into a split sound. And right now, as far as I know, there's no way to automate these splitters level directly. So what I did was I put a mix tool in series with the PSP InfiniStrip, and I automated this, which you can see here. So that's why it starts off a little more subdued and dull back here. And then we get the much sharper sound that comes out and just cuts through everything a little bit easier later on. And that's all that is going on. So actually, I could show you this. It's a pretty useful move to know how to do, because you could just, I spent a while trying to figure out how do you automate this one thing. And this was the workaround that I found. And that's how you can take a synth sound and just slip it into your mix a little more nicely. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.